I think a rising thing that I'm seeing with a lot of creative technologists in the space. So if you think about generative art and the ability for artists to be actually like surfacing what is happening from a technology perspective, kind of under the hood, and then to show almost like the nature of computers or the nature of technology through their artwork and through the kind of visual medium.
That is Gendry Morales, and this is episode 40 of the Blockchain Pro podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the Blockchain Pro podcast. I'm Adriana and today's guest is Gendry Morales. Gendry is a software engineer who very early on saw the possibilities that smart contracts and mixing code and art would bring to both crypto and the creative worlds. In this episode, we discuss her path to choosing a career in tech, the evolution of smart contracts and Ethereum, what's an NFT, and a lot more. Let's get to know Gendry.
Hi, Gendry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, really good.
It's good for a Monday morning. Thanks for meeting me.
My pleasure.
Let's go back in time and talk about how you get started with working in tech. Did you always want it, or was it something that evolved through the years?
Yeah, so I find it's useful for people to understand a little bit about how I grew up and kind of my life as a kid. So my dad was an electronics engineer. So I'd been kind of soldering chipboards in the shed with him when I was a little kid. And then my mum was a fashion designer. And so I was kind of switching between that and then helping her with kind of how to design the fashion, how to do made to measure, working with kind of fabric and aesthetics. And so kind of had that artistic influence alongside this like really kind of deep engineering background from very early on in my life.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, in my career, I studied computer science. Once I finished that, I worked as a developer for the first kind of 5 years out of uni. But yeah, I kind of had that background in more of the kind of creative application of it. So even after I'd kind of studied technology, I was always thinking a little bit different to a lot of my peers in industry from back then.
So, and how did you discover crypto?
Yeah, so, kind of fast forward a bit, kind of over my career. I mean, I spent a lot of time working in banking and finance, and my husband, he had two, and he was really into Bitcoin very early on. And was always asking me, hitting me up with questions about how the technology worked. But I wasn't as interested in kind of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency aspect of it. It wasn't until I saw, I think it must have been early 2017, I saw Ethereum. And then I was just blown away because I was seeing this kind of application layout that was much more than a cryptocurrency. It was something that we could start to kind of build different types of banking products on, and like this world computer idea, I think for a lot of technologists was really interesting. And yeah, I was kind of hooked from there.
Was Ethereum easy to play with at the time?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, my the first project we did was we started interviewing people, and at the time lots of people were building really kind of tech kind of infrastructure, so protocols, standards, these kinds of things. I felt it was really abstract, and everyone we talked to who was trying to understand cryptocurrency just had lots of really noob basic questions. Yeah. And so the first product we did was actually a chatbot, which helped with like the most commonly asked questions. And it was, I think it was a Slack integration, but yeah, you could put it in different kind of channels, and had heaps of people, asking the bot questions about Ethereum and Bitcoin, and it kind of guided them all the way through to how to get their first, purchase their first cryptocurrency. So that's probably still a good idea to do, actually.
Is that bot still active, or
no?
I don't think I came across it.
No, we never really like productized it or launched it because I think it felt too simple maybe back then, but yeah, that one would have been a good idea. We wanted to do something maybe a little bit more ambitious or a little bit different. I mean, I certainly wanted to do something a bit more creative with the technology back then. But yeah, like Ethereum was not easy to build on in 2017. And, you really had to find good exemplar projects that you could start to, copy the code from, and adapt it and really think about, what's something that could actually make sense using the technology at the time. There wasn't, now today, there's YouTube videos on how to get started with Solidity. And, there's crypto zombies and all of these kinds of things that make it easier. But no, back then it was really, just starting to kind of put the pieces together and try and make sense of it.
And is that how you've found the inspiration to create your own NFT project?
Well, yeah, so we were in 2017, after we did that bot, we were looking at, okay, what kinds of projects would be really interesting to do. Lots of people were doing really financially based projects. I'd spent a lot of time in banking and finance, and I wanted to play more. I didn't want to spend my time doing a financial product. And so there was only kind of one project that really stood out that was really different. And most people thought it was weird, but this is the CryptoPunks. We saw, this just really weird project where they'd actually kind of used images and put that, tokenized that and put that on Ethereum. And we loved it. Like, it really brought us joy, and they were really generous. They shared a lot of their process and the code, so that was quite easy to kind of fork those contracts, and then you got to get into the hard part of like creating the art and everything. But yeah, that was kind of the inspiration for the CryptoCats back in 2017.
Yes.
Yeah, and so yeah, a bit about that. So CryptoCats, one of the earliest NFT projects, alongside people like the CryptoPunks, Mooncat Rescue, Ethereum, and it was pre the ERC721 standard. So a bit of NFT history. The CryptoKitties were the ones later in 2017 that actually developed the ERC721 standard. So what that means is that before the 721 standard, all of our contracts had functions in them like transfer cat or, claim cat, whereas nowadays it's claim token or transfer token, these kinds of things. And so, the standard made a really big impact, but also, I guess, for the vintage, NFTs out there like ours, they certainly have this kind of unique and interesting kind of story in history.
That's super interesting that you were able to create something even before the standard that everybody uses nowadays was developed. For those people listening who are not yet entirely familiar with how this works, in basic terms, what is an NFT?
Well, so an NFT is is a token. I mean, I guess we've got kind of two main tokens. We've got one which is the fungible token, or like ERC20 or coin, which, you know, just like a dollar, you can fractionalize into kind of cents. And, you know, you're not tied to, you know, one kind of 10-cent piece over another. They're kind of all the same. Whereas an NFT, that tokenizes more kind of unique items. And so they've been used a lot for images, but people are tokenizing, you know, all sorts of things as non-fungible tokens at the moment. But so I would say that's the kind of textbook definition, because I think there's a lot more behind, you know, what really is an NFT.
What really is not?
No, what really is an NFT?
I don't know. From my understanding, an NFT is a proof that a digital file or a digital something is original, and it can be used for other things, you know, things other than art, right? It can be used to prove that anything is original.
Yeah, I think in its simplest form, there's the proof aspect of it, but once you you know, you've got to realize as well, like the contract that you have behind. I mean, there's a set of functions that make it the kind of NFT standard, but also you're kind of programming this token, you know, for the future as well. So you can set up different rules around how it's going to work. And I think that's more of the tokenomics maybe side of it. I think we're starting to see a lot more innovation there, as well as a lot more innovation around what kinds of things do you NFT, and what does that, you know, holding that NFT start to give you. Maybe not just the kind of proof that you own a JPEG, or the proof that you own a video file or an audio file, the proof that you own a physical item. You know, all of these things I think are starting to be explored now.
Yes, they are. And are people trading CryptoCats now? How is that space looking?
Yeah, I mean, in the last, I guess it's a hard thing to describe to people, you know, doing a project 4 years ago and then it being really popular all that time later. But yeah, one of the things that happened in the past few months is I minted my own NFT. It was a kind of a commemoration or reflection on the CryptoCats project. I always wanted to do a bit of artwork that I could hang in my room and see all of the cats together. I think one of the things as a project creator in this space is that you don't just kind of see the individual tokens. With the CryptoCats, it's actually one of the scarcest NFT, like vintage NFTs out there, with 625 tokens. And so it's not too many NFTs for me to be able to kind of imagine all together. And I know a lot of the people that own, you know, different CryptoCats. And so I did this artwork, and it was right in the middle of a lot of the NFT hype. And then, yeah, it became really, really popular. And I think it was maybe for people who hadn't heard of the project before, you know, we started to get a lot more kind of new cat owners into the community. And there's been a lot of activity over the last few months, which has been really great and really, really interesting to meet people that can connect with the project in a new and different way.
Yeah, I think meeting people that are connecting with this space right now compared to 2017, there's so much more that you can do. So many different blockchains, and you know, you can build NFTs in not just in Ethereum now, there's others, and there's always so much to like grasp. How do you keep yourself updated? Are there any special tools that you use or websites that you read? How do you get your crypto news? let's share a bit of what's in your daily to our listeners so they can go and check out those things as well.
Yeah. So it's really hard. I mean, first of all, you would know as well, it's really hard to keep up with everything that's going on. And so you've just got to be comfortable with not being able to know everything. I like to know a few things in a lot of detail as well. So although I have lots of people that send me lots of different things, so I almost don't need to go out searching for information. There's plenty coming my way. Like for me, the best way that I learn is by doing. And so at the moment, I'm working on lots of different projects, and so that probably gives me the opportunity to kind of explore and test ideas. And I think that, that's what I did from very early on in the space as well, is, I've always focused on kind of thinking of an idea and then getting quickly to, okay, how do we launch it, and launching it and then seeing, what kind of happens in the community. I think nowadays, lots of communities are really active on Discord, and there's lots of really interesting groups, I think, to be a part of. I think that's where a lot of the quality information is. Obviously there's a lot on crypto Twitter, and I think that in the NFT space, if people are interested in that, I think that it's worth following some of the collectors in the space. I think that collectors of NFTs have got really good kind of perspectives, and there's heaps of different ones. Depends on what kind of NFT kind of subgenre people are into. But yeah, I think that there's lots of really interesting people to follow on Twitter as well.
And what's your wish for this space? If you're looking back, let's say 5 years from now, what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that it'd be, look, at the moment it's really volatile, and I think that we have some good quality projects right next to really scammy, awful, projects. I'm not sure whether that will go away. I think maybe it'd be good to see some really meaningful kind of more meaningful projects that cross over a bit more with like what I kind of think about as the Web3 world and the Web2 world. I feel like these things, like even the digital world and physical world, are really separate at the moment. But I would like to see a bit more kind of meaningful connection for that. That would be good. And you're starting to use a lot of the technology and infrastructure to solve useful problems on a day-to-day basis. Which, maybe that's something in 5 years' time that will happen.
Yes, I think creating a virtual world that mimics the real world means that scammers are always going to be there, because we've never been able to eradicate that problem, right? There's always good and bad in everything and everyone, including the societies that we live. So it's a good wish. I definitely wish we could solve that problem. But
yeah, it's interesting. So the other part of it for me is that okay, so sometimes the things that happen, say the vulnerabilities that get exposed, or you see activity that you think, oh, this is terrible, or like the thing that happens in this community, right? And I think this is really different in Web3 and decentralized communities, is that people take notice of the problems, and then as soon as there's a problem, people are swarming on it and building really good kind of fixes to it. So it's got this kind of self-healing property to it as well. So I feel like it's part of the course at the moment to go through, some of the difficulty to be able to create the motivation to actually solve some of those difficult problems.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's change gears a little bit. I always ask this question. How do you explain blockchain for those in your life that aren't tech savvy? Like, have you had conversations, I don't know, not with your dad, because he's an engineer as well, but and your mom's an artist, so she would understand the NFT problem, but I don't know, other people, your friends that, you know, that I assume you would have a lot of friends in the art world. So how do you explain everything that's happening to them?
Yeah, so in the art world, that's probably where we have some really interesting debates about, I kind of call it crypto art, I think, with them. I think there's two things when I'm describing NFTs to people in the art world. Is the first thing is that I think is a paradigm shift is digital art is art, and maybe not in the way that it's not a digitization of how we think of art today. It's, you know, digital art is more of a moving into a paradigm of a virtual world or a digital world. So when you see an image of, you know, like a still image of a digital art piece, I think what you're looking at is like a Polaroid or a snapshot of a virtual world that people know is there behind it. You know, lots of people are creating digital art through, you know, like Blender or Unity, or, you know, these, we kind of understand that, you know, this is a world they have created, and, you know, you're seeing just kind of a glimpse of that world. And I think that that's a really exciting part of digital art. But also I think there is, maybe much like street art, there is a statement as well that comes from an artistic perspective, which I think is, you know, separates some NFTs from, you know, just kind of a regular NFT as opposed to an NFT maybe that is making a statement. And so I think there are a few statements or a few kind of types of this. And I think, you know, if you think about crypto, like one of the statements is around, you know, the financial ecosystem, and, you know, there's a whole bunch of different statements that people make around, you know, what is the future of money, or, you know, what is the problem with money today? There's also, I think, a rising thing that I'm seeing with a lot of creative technologists in the space. So if you think about generative art and the ability for artists to be actually like surfacing what is happening from a technology perspective, kind of under the hood, and then to show almost like the nature of computers or the nature of technology through their artwork, and through the kind of visual medium. I think there are also kind of statements there as well. And then there's statements on NFTs in themselves. So I was talking to a guy, he goes under the name of CTO Art, and he did a mural, you know, painted a physical mural, took a photo, and then painted over the mural. And so, you know, you've got these ones that are like that, or like the burnt Banksies, which are, you know, now creating, I guess, a new kind of statement on what is art and what is NFT and what is permanence in physical world as opposed to digital as well.
Have you been playing with any of the digital worlds like Decentraland or any of the other ones?
Yeah, I did a while ago. So Decentraland and Crypto Voxels. Yeah, I did play a lot with those in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, look, they're really interesting. They've come a long way, I think, in terms of adoption in the past few years. And I mean, I get it. I think it makes sense. And I think that they're going to continue forward. And I think it'd be really good to see, you know, some different types of kind of metaverses and digital worlds coming together.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like, especially with the year that we had last year where everybody was indoors, but, you know, you could go on Decentraland for a conference, for example, like the CryptoCats did, I think it was around March or April last year. And you could, you know, still hang out with people and have chats, and that was super interesting.
Yeah, and I think it mimics a lot of, if you think about the trends with younger generations. They're socializing in virtual worlds, in games. That's normal for people. So I think that, that's just going to be a big part of, how people interact with each other, in the future. And I think this is where different types of NFTs kind of have different types of uses in these places as well. I think that part of the rise of these more kind of avatar NFTs, which, CryptoCats is a bit of that one, CryptoPunks is obviously kind of big, is that, people, the one dimension is, people need an avatar to go into these games, and you can go with a kind of really boring one or something a bit more unique. But also, if you think about how people are interacting and talking with each other across, whether it's in virtual worlds or, through digital mediums, the rise of, people have different profiles and different avatars for different profiles at different days. And I think people are, kind of digital native style people are trying on almost like different personalities at different times. And I think that is starting to expand maybe a lot more rapidly than, people originally thought.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time to spend on Decentraland, to be honest.
Maybe we'll be doing the podcasts in there in the future.
That's a great idea. I think, like, as you just mentioned, young people, they're playing games and they are, experimenting with all these things because obviously they have more time than we do.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's something that carries as long as they, progress into adult life.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, but I think that's I think it is a place where people are, and I think that's a place where people interact. And so it's just like the physical world also is. I think that the digital world has become, a really big part of that. And I think COVID has really helped lots of different age groups also understand that.
True. I'm thinking, I played The Sims a lot still. It's always been one of my favorite games. And I'm thinking how Decentraland could be like The Sims for reals.
Yeah.
where you're not the overlord of everybody that's in the game, but you actually interacting with other people, with real people at the end of the things, or maybe even bots, who knows.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting to the pointy end. So any advice for noobs getting into this space, or people just willing to explore? Anything in particular you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think that it's always good to kind of, I think, the research part plays a big part, but I'm a really big fan of launching things, trying things. You'll learn a lot more and a lot quicker that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gendry, for giving us your time today.
No problem.
Go CryptoCats.
And that was the artistic Gendry Morales. How I love chatting with people in this space. It's so inspiring. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Gendry as much as I did. So to get in touch with her or with me, follow the links in the description. Shout out in the comments if you own a CryptoCat. I want to hear from you. We made to episode 40. Woohoo! And I'm getting more downloads than ever. So thank you for being on this journey with me. If you have a few minutes to spare, would you please write a review on whatever platform you listen to this? iTunes, Spotify, Google, any platforms. Reviews help greatly with rankings. And obviously, reviewers get a mention at a future episode, so double yay! Alrighty, let's wrap this up. Have a wonderful time wherever you are. Keep on learning. I will see you on the next block. Bye!